Okay, hello, hello. This is Jen Piceno, and today I have with me a very special guest who has become a very dear friend of mine. Please meet Amber Dopkins from Mystic Meadows Healing. Today we wanted to jump on, and we do coffee chats all the time. And we decided we were going to push record today so that you can learn from our amazing conversations. So what are we talking about today, Amber?
Oh, there is so much to talk about. Something that's been coming up for me a lot is the phases of motherhood. And I really feel like we don't talk about it enough, that motherhood has some initiations and changes throughout it that we need to look forward to, because sometimes motherhood is not very easy and we can get stuck in these ruts and we can become hopeless in those moments and those phases.
Right. And I know you and I have both talked about that deeply within our own lives, of some of the hard knocks that we've taken as a mother, and how we take all of that into our own heart in such a heavy way that we feel guilt, we feel shame. We take all of those big emotions in when things don't work out picture perfect like we imagined. Can you resonate with that? Yeah. Yes. So you're in a totally different phase than me, because it took me 10 years to get pregnant. So I am 48 with an 8-year-old, and you are coming into this beautiful new phase of being a grandmother and carrying the grandmother wisdom with you. So what's that like? Like, where are you at with that right now, and seeing your daughter go through her own phases and stepping into motherhood?
Yes, it is so different. I really didn't expect to have all of these emotions and feelings come up when finding out I was going to be a grandma. So my daughter's 20, she's 23 weeks pregnant. So she's due in the fall. So we're still getting used to the idea of a little baby coming soon, but very, very excited. But when she told me she was pregnant, I immediately went back through all of the phases of motherhood that I'd been through and wondered, like, did I do it right? And, I went through all of this, just looking back, and then looking forward, becoming the grandmother. There was this responsibility that washed over me of like, I'm supposed to be this wise woman that is going to pass down, stories and wisdom and recipes. And I immediately went to, what recipe am I going to pass down? What wisdom am I going to share? Do I have enough wisdom and recipes?
You have more than enough.
Definitely. But I didn't feel prepared for, I don't know what reason. I think because we haven't talked about it. So I wasn't expecting all of that to come up. And that's probably why I didn't feel prepared.
Well, I have a different take on that. And I'm not in the phase of grandmotherhood. However, I tried for 10 years to get pregnant. And you would think I would be more than prepared for everything. But there's so many things that happen through pregnancy, and then from infant to toddler and on up, that you are not prepared for. And each child is completely different, and each parenting role is completely different. And what I've found is, with each phase and age, it brings us into our own healing of the parts that were plain stagnant. And it just kind of pushes on you a little bit, like, hey, you might want to look at this, because we go through all the aches and pains that our children experience. It does take us back through our own stuff. So I can understand wholeheartedly why that would have happened when you found out your daughter was pregnant. It brings up all of those things. And I think self-doubt and confidence in ourselves and the role we play is a big piece of that.
I agree. Yes, for sure.
And where do you think, so I want to know, what are you going to be called as a grandma? I know we had talked about that weeks ago. Do we have a name?
I don't have a name yet. I have some ideas. So there's some names that I like, but then there's the part of me that is like, oh, but it has to go with my husband's name. Like, whatever my grandma name is, the grandpa name needs to fit together.
Okay, so whoever is watching, whether you're watching with us at the moment or you're watching in replay, help Amber out, and in the comments, give her some ideas for what some cool names would be for a grandmother and grandfather. I mean, look at her. She is cutting edge and she is ready to rock this. She needs a good name. Okay. Yes. So what else do you want to share with everybody?
Oh, well, I guess I love that we're bouncing back and forth with the different phases. You're in a very different phase than I am in motherhood, and I love that you're sharing that. And I think that there are other phases that need to be talked about. Doesn't mean it needs to be talked about at this moment, but I do feel like there are probably a handful of phases in motherhood that are very different from each other. Even though we're all still mother to the same children, those things really change our life and our perspective. And it can be difficult to accept and take on those changes.
I think it is too. And then also the role that we play as a woman versus a man, and what old beliefs need to dissolve. That's something that I know I really had to go through within our household, within our marriage, is just understanding, okay, this is how I grew up. This was the role of that. And I had my own work to do with that. A lot of that was my addiction of codependence and people pleasing, and working through that individually, but also working out, how do we co-parent? What do we do with this? What are our beliefs going to be? What are our traditions going to be as a family? And then the other thing that's really interesting to me, and I want to speak because we are talking about motherhood in those phases, but I think there's a lot of people who I know who have mothered me that were not my mother. And I think we need to pay tribute to all of the aunts and the cousins and the grandmas and that are not even in our bloodline, that really take an interest in helping raising our children, the ones that raised me. I just want big kisses to all of them, because they got me through some of the toughest times, because you can't always have a conversation with your mom and dad about something, even though we want to be the end all be all for our children. You need to have also incredible people lined up in their lives that they can go to and ask for help. And I don't know if you experienced that in your own upbringing, but I know I think about that very often, because there's a handful of people that just, I would have grown into a different woman if they hadn't touched my lives.
Yes, I totally agree. And I don't know that I had that as much as a child, but I did provide that for my children. We call it our tribe. Like, it takes a village to raise a child. At least that was my experience.
Yeah.
And it was so helpful to have someone come in with advice that maybe I didn't have the wisdom with, to share with our children, and really cultivate into them and watch them bloom in that way. Because it is very different to hear things from your parent and someone else that you love and respect that's like a parent, but not your parent. And a lot of times we're saying the same thing.
It removes the judgment somehow, or at least for me, like feeling like you're going to be judged for your thoughts and feelings. And do you see yourself taking that role for like some of your friends, your son's friends and so forth? Like, do they come over like, and they want that nurturing from you?
Definitely. Yes. I actually really enjoy being in that role for them, because it is quite different than your own children, but you're still putting into the youth of today.
Right. Which makes it spread out. And that's what we want, is conscious mass to go wide and far, and people to be touched in different ways. And they will always remember that, you know?
Yes.
I know the people that have touched my life, I'm still in contact with them, from people from high school that are not in our family. We're not family friends or anything like that. There are people I worked with in corporations and so forth that just took an interest in me being a young woman who was very aggressive in going after what she wanted, and they helped mold me in their own way. And I love that you're doing that for other people. And I can't wait to do that for my son's friends. And I have other friends that I see them actively doing that with 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and so forth. They're the go-to person for advice. And it is a big responsibility.
It is. It's a very different phase than having children in elementary school. The teenagers are a lot of fun, but there is a lot of time working through emotions, and they're changing. They're going through initiation of coming out of their childhood and into adulthood. Not quite, but they're in that phase of that switch. And so it can be difficult for them to navigate that. And it's really, really fun to watch them grow into their own, but it can be a process as a parent watching that and going through that with them.
Right. So. And they still have to go through their own trials and tribulations, which I think that for me is the hardest part being a parent, is we can guide and coach and love and give them all the advice in the world, but they still have to go through their own wounds. And that's so true for me. Like, you want so badly to make sure they're on the right path, but they still have to do it their way.
Yes, I completely agree. I've learned the hard way of when I stepped in and tried to prevent them from the harm that I saw or the pain that I saw coming towards them. And I feel like I helped more when I let go and allowed them to experience themselves and learn from it themselves. Then they gained the knowledge and the wisdom from their own experience. And I think they pay attention to it more. They learn more from that when they do it themselves. But as parents, we can still guide along the way as they're going through that.
We're never going to stop parenting. That's for sure. Yeah, we're going to always try to stop the wounds from happening. But I do believe that in my own life, there was things that I did. I did some big whopper mistakes. And I'm going to still keep making big whopper mistakes. But those are the ones that really turn into the sacred medicine that we transform to help others. And with Sacred Medicine, the book coming out, I'm so honored that you're going to be one of our authors in that book, because you have so much medicine to share. And you are carrying now grandmother medicine too. So that is quite beautiful. I think I'd like to bring you back and us talk more independently about each phase. And I'd like to dive into it from even maiden, mother, and then it goes into wise woman. But for me, I believe there's a phase in between that, which I've mentioned to you before. And that's where a woman really comes into her own and starts using her voice to make a difference and starts asking for what she wants. Some people call it the goddess phase. So maiden, mother, goddess, and then wise woman. Would you like to do that?
I would love to do that. Yes, okay. I love spending all this time with you. I've always enjoyed our chats, and I'm very honored to be part of the book with you and everything that we're creating and you're creating. Watching you through your process over the last year has been amazing. So any chance I get to spend some time with you, I will take it.
Awesome. And the feeling is mutual. I think that we came into Sacred Sisterhood with big purpose, and we're just getting started.
Yes.
So for everybody here, please connect with each other. You never know where it's going to take you and the relationships that will build from it. Like I said, she is in my Sacred Sisterhood tribe, and that is so life-changing to have somebody that you know you can call and talk to, judgment-free, that will also call you out on your shit and tell you like it is. That's the true sisterhood. And Amber, thank you for being my sister.
Oh, thank you too. I really honor and love that we are in this together.
Awesome. We will be back with you guys on another day. Please drop comments for us and let us know any subjects that you would like us to chat about. And don't forget to give Amber some cool grandma, grandpa names. Big love to you all. Mwah.